Why, hello there, and welcome to Merry Wednesday, a weekly podcast where every day is a holiday. I'm Sam, and I'm here to help you celebrate. Or am I? Everything is going to be very mysterious today, because today, March 29th, 2023, is Smoke and Mirrors Day. And in case you haven't heard the term smoke and mirrors before, that means we're talking about magic and illusion and cool stuff like that. But what does smoke and mirrors have to do with magic? First of all, if you haven't seen Smoke and Mirrors and Magic, you need to watch more magic shows. Magic shows are not just people pulling rabbits out of a hat at children's birthday parties. They are bigger, more intricate shows at all types of venues with elaborate tricks. In a very literal sense, smoke and mirrors are a physical means of misdirection. Smoke can be used to cover up the magic, such as in a disappearing act, to let the magician or the assistant actually do the disappearing as the case may be. The purpose of mirrors tends to be to angle them in such a way to make it look like something, usually a box of some sort, is empty when it isn't. This allows the magicians to make it look like something has disappeared when it's really still there. These are far from the only ways to use smoke and mirrors. Magic is pretty cool because it is always evolving, and the trick to it, if you'll forgive the pun, is to keep coming out with new ways of doing things. But basically, smoke and mirrors have become synonymous with illusion. So it's kind of a shame that the first use of the term was not referring to magic at all, but rather comes from a book about American politics in 1975. Those of you American history buffs may have correctly guessed that this is in reference to the Watergate scandal, but as that was before my time, and I have absolutely no intention of touching politics with a 10-foot pole at this juncture, I'll leave it at that. There will be links for you to check out in the show notes if you want to know more. Now, I'm a big fan of magic. I always have been. Not that I can do much magic myself, but I do truly love trying to figure out the ways the tricks are done. Some may call that ruining it, but for me, it adds an extra level of intrigue. And I know I'm not alone here because there are shows dedicated to figuring out how to do magic tricks. The one I grew up with had someone who called themselves the Masked Magician, and the whole point was, quote, breaking the magician's code, or rather revealing how some of the more well-known tricks were done. And this was everything from simple coin tricks to big showstopper impossible escape tricks. I absolutely loved it. And while this was more than 20 years ago, there is still an interest in this type of thing. You've probably heard of Penn-and-Tell-ing, and if you haven't, I'm so sorry. They are a fantastic and quite famous magic duo. I've seen them live once, and I have tickets to see them again soon, and I am beyond excited about it. Anyway, their fame doesn't stop them from occasionally revealing how tricks are done. In fact, they do a version of the ball and cups trick. You know, the one where there are 3 cups and you have to figure out which one has the ball under it after they move the cups around, with clear cups so that you can follow along with every step. Or at least try to. Let me tell you, it is absolutely no less impressive knowing how it's done. It may even be more impressive because now you know how much work and practice had to go into it. Which is probably why they now have a show called Penn-and-Teller Fool Us on the CW, where magicians from across the world come to perform for Penn and Teller in an effort to do something that, despite their extensive magic experience, they would be unable to figure out simply by watching. And just so we're clear, this isn't sponsored by them at all. I'm just a genuinely big fan. And since they're currently on season 9, it would seem I'm not the only one. Now, I'm hoping that at this point, you haven't gotten too frustrated that I haven't started getting into the origin of the holiday at all, and are rather enjoying my misdirection. And as in magic, the misdirection is very purposeful. That is because, despite my scouring the internet to the best of my abilities, I absolutely cannot find anything about how this holiday came to be. The earliest entry that I could find was a calendar dated in 1989, but it looks like it was likely backdated, particularly since it doesn't say anything about the holiday, just that it's on March 29th. Not super helpful. The first thing I can find with an actual date on it is an article compiling a list of interesting holidays on each day of 2010, listing Festival of Smoke and Mirrors Day, another name for this holiday, or so it claims. Very confusing, since my research suggested that there may have been such a festival in 2012 in the United Kingdom, and possibly an earlier one in 2010, but since the article was dated in January, 2 months before this holiday falls, I'm not sure how that makes sense, so I dove into it further. I looked for any festival that could have been held on March 29th, 2012, anywhere. The only thing that came up was Mule Day, a multi-day mule-pulling festival mentioned in an article from a newspaper in Tennessee. Doesn't sound especially magical, but I wasn't there, so who knows. I also looked at the archives for the Edinburgh Reporter, since Edinburgh, Scotland was the location that came up in my search as the location where the festival was held, but there's no mention of it. The only thing I could find referencing both smoke and mirrors in March 2012 was a review of a steak restaurant that apparently has lovely mirrors. Or had lovely mirrors, as it looks like it closed about 3 years ago. I couldn't find anything saying specifically why it closed, but since 3 years ago was 2020, I can guess. We don't talk about 2020. Regardless, I don't believe that a newspaper based in the town where the festival was supposedly held would miss mentioning it at all, so I'm going to say it probably didn't happen, at least not there. So why are we calling it Festival of Smoke and Mirrors Day? It would seem that this is another lovely illusion wrapped in the mystery of this holiday. And doesn't it seem extremely appropriate that Smoke and Mirrors Day just appeared out of thin air? Frankly, I like the idea of that, and I'm happy to accept it. Now, on to how to celebrate. Today is a day about magic appreciation. Watch a magic show on TV or online. Or go see a magic show in person. And why not? You deserve a break and some entertainment, and it makes for a way more interesting night out than your standard dinner at your usual place. Watch a movie about magic and magicians. The Illusionist, The Prestige, and Now You See Me come to mind if you need suggestions. Pick up a book on magic tricks, or better yet, learn how to do a trick. And since I've deprived you of the origin information I would have liked to have provided, I'll take on that responsibility myself. We're going to do a pretty simple trick. You'll need a napkin, a salt shaker, and a table to sit at. A cloth napkin works best, but any thicker napkin will do. You just don't want to be able to see through it, and it needs to be able to hold its shape. You'll be performing this trick for the person sitting across the table from you. You won't be able to do it if they're sitting next to you. Tell them that you're going to make the salt shaker fuse through the table. Demonstrate that the table is solid, and then cover the salt shaker with the napkin. Pull the covered salt shaker back towards you with one hand and point to the table with the other. Say something to draw their attention to the table instead of the salt shaker. Tell them to inspect the table themselves, point out the exact spot you'll make the salt shaker go through. Anything to keep them distracted for just long enough to drop the salt shaker into your lap with your other hand while holding the napkin in shape so it looks like the salt shaker is still in your hand. As long as you're distracting enough and not wearing lead pants, it should fall quietly enough that the person you're performing for won't notice. Return your hand holding the napkin over to the spot that you pointed to. Make some sort of magical gesture with your other hand. A good wiggle of the fingers is always pretty magical. Feel free to throw in a magic word. Poof and alakazam are good standbys, but absolutely try to make it your own and come up with your own magic word if you feel so inclined. And then smack your hand down, flattening the napkin so it hits the table. Pull the salt shaker off of your lap to show that it really did go through the table. As I said, very simple, but it looks pretty cool if you did it right. I remember learning this one as a kid, so feel free to show any little ones in your life. It's a good one for them to learn too. Just remember one of the cardinal rules of magic. Unless you're teaching someone how to do a trick, if they ask you to do it again, the answer is no. That just gives them a chance to figure it out, and unless you're me, that may ruin the trick for them. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this magical journey attempting to learn about this elusive holiday that appeared out of nowhere. And if you didn't, at least you know a magic trick now, so that's pretty cool. If you have a better trick you'd like to share, or have any suggestions for any other listeners on how to best appreciate the spirit of today's holiday, please feel free to send me an email at merrywednesdaypod@gmail.com. You can also check out www.merrywednesday.com, find our page on Facebook called Merry Wednesday, follow our Instagram page at Merry_Wednesday, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Merry Wednesday. I also want to know if you came up with your own magic word, so please reach out. And if you liked this episode, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. Thank you so much for taking the time to celebrate with me, and I hope you have a very Merry Wednesday. And now it's time for me to disappear. Poof!